Welcome back to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On Wednesday, September 30th, I will attend the Elizabeth Development Company's Small Business Development Series titled Growth and Access. The event will be held at the Investors Bank located at 51 South Broad Street. For more information, please contact Elizabeth Development Company at 289-0262. And also that evening at 7 o'clock, there will be a public meeting for local leaders and law enforcement. It will be held at the Union County College located at 12 West Jersey Street. And on Thursday this week at 11 o'clock in the morning, the graduation and swearing-in ceremony will happen for 10 new firefighters in the City Council chambers in the city of Elizabeth. Please join us as we welcome 10 new firefighters. And on Saturday of this week, rain or shine, even though we have a storm coming in, there's going to be the 3rd annual Breast Cancer Awareness Walk. This year's walk will be held at Carteret Park. Gathering will begin at the intersection of Elmore Avenue and Murray Street. The registration time is 10 o'clock in the morning. Donations will be accepted, cash or check, made payable to the American Cancer Society. Also, if you need any more information concerning these events or any other events, please call our Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. Please stay with us. After these messages, we'll be back with Miss Eileen Kelly talking about flu season and tips to remain healthy during the season.
We have some of the finest teachers in the country. And then they graduate. Kane University.
Welcome back to Our City, and I'm pleased to be joined by Miss Eileen Kelly, who is the Public Health Nurse Supervisor in the city. Eileen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello.
So how long have you been there now?
Ooh, 19 years.
19 years, but you've been chief for?
A little over 10.
A little over 10 as a chief supervisor,
yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So how are we doing in, before we begin, how you doing? All right?
Very busy. You know, the public health nurses do the non-public schools in Elizabeth, so, you know, the beginning of the school season is very busy, you know, getting records, making sure all the students are vaccinated according to the guidelines. So our clinics are busy, you know, with the nurses sending the students, you know, for their vaccines, for the ones that are deficient. So, and many phone calls, when is the flu program starting?
Yeah, so let's start with the vaccinations first, Eileen. There's an awful lot of, you know, people out there who talk about vaccines. It's important to get vaccinated. Make no mistake about it, right?
Yes, because vaccines, while they're not 100% effective, most of them are 99% effective. You know, why would you want a disease that's vaccine preventable? And a lot of people don't think they're important because they're at the age where they never saw any of the diseases. Even some of the physicians, like in the ERs, haven't seen like cases because we've had, you know, vaccines. So if you don't see the children getting sick, they don't realize, you know, at least parents too.
Under New Jersey law, what are the children responsible, or their parents responsible to get their children vaccinated from?
There's quite a few. DTaP, with his diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. There's polio. There's hepatitis B vaccine. You usually get the first hepatitis B at birth. You know, most babies get that in the city of Elizabeth and actually in New Jersey. And then you have to go by school guidelines also. Then there's measles, mumps, rubella that they get between 1 and 15 months of age. Then they have to get a booster when they're between 4 and 6 years of age. So they go according, you know, to a schedule. For several years now, there's a 6th grade requirement, and that's what a lot of the students are calling us for the Tdap, which is a tetanus and pertussis, because there's a rise in pertussis. So they've done studies where your last pertussis may have been when you were 5, and now they show that by 11, the protection wanes. So that's why now it's mandatory for the 6th graders, and if you're 11 years of age, you need a Tdap and a Menactra in order to attend the 6th grade.
So Eileen, polio is something that's been eradicated in this country, but it's still mandated to get a polio shot.
Yeah, it is, because if you don't have the vaccine, it could inevitably, you know, come back.
Because it still exists in some...
In other countries, and a lot of people travel overseas where, you know, it is. So,
yeah. So let's talk about the flu. You know, the flu always hits
Yes.
the areas. First of all, what are the symptoms of flu? Because flu is often disguised, sort of say, right?
Well,
people say they got the flu, but they don't really have the flu.
It's really not, because the flu wouldn't be gone in 1 or 2 days. I mean, the flu really knocks you. I personally had the flu years ago, and ever since then I get a flu shot. It knocked me up like for 2 weeks straight, and I missed, time at work. And I was working at Elizabeth General then. So I'll never forget like how the hair on my head, was hurting. You have a lot of body aches, and it usually comes on suddenly. You may or may not get a fever. It doesn't, usually you do, but not, not always. And it usually starts upper respiratory, but usually suddenly, like sore throat, runny nose, cough, but it's the body aches and muscle aches, and fatigue that.
I've only had it once too, and you're right.
Yeah.
You remember that, I think. You just you just can't move.
I couldn't do anything.
Right.
So
flu vaccinations.
Right.
Important, not important, what are the ages, who should get them, who shouldn't get them?
Well, it is important because it's the most preventable way to, prevent illness. People don't realize influenza is responsible for a lot of hospitalizations throughout the years and also deaths. You can get pneumonia, blood disorders, so the best way is to prevent it, even though it's, like I said, not 100% effective. If you're vaccinated against the flu, if you do come in contact with somebody with the flu and you're not in that 1 or 2 weeks where it's protecting you yet, you'll get a milder case of the flu. It won't, really.
What are the flu germs? How are they transmitted?
Usually respiratory droplets or like saliva, but it also could last on a surface. That's less likely. But usually it's sneezing, coughing, runny nose. Say somebody sneezes and doesn't cover their mouth or with a tissue or something, or it's on their hands and they're going to touch another object, or their droplet sprays, land on a surface and somebody else comes along. A lot of viruses last for a while on some inanimate objects.
Shaking hands, kissing?
Oh, yes. I try to avoid that, either the elbow or something else. But, when you're doing a lot of handshaking, you're exposed to a lot.
And so the advice is to wash your hands frequently.
Wash your hands, wash your hands frequently. I mean, we do ordinarily, but, between person to person, or especially if you're sick, don't leave your tissues hanging around, dispose of them properly.
So how long should you wash your hands? I'd always see, just putting them under the water with soap is long enough? Is there a song you sing, or how long is it supposed to go?
There's a few songs. I think one is "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" a couple times, and the other is "Happy Birthday." That's difficult, but that's a lot of teaching done in the schools is to teach the children to do that. But that is a long time. We don't usually generally wash our hands that long, no.
But the longer the better, and the more often, especially during flu season.
Yeah.
Eileen, you mentioned that the influenza vaccine is not 99% effective, but talk about some of the different types of influenza vaccine that you either see or are out there.
Well, right now there's a quadrivalent. I'm not even sure if you can get the trivalent, so it protects against 4 of the most popular viruses. It's 2 A viruses and 2 B viruses. And in 2009, if you remember the H1N1 problem that we had, that year you had to get 2 shots. And then ever since that year, they've incorporated it into the vaccine. So this year, and all these other years, it still has the H1N1. And I believe one of the other ones is H2N3. That was something that came out last year that wasn't in the vaccine. If you recall, last year, the vaccine wasn't really that effective against certain, because it can't hit all the strains of the vaccine. They try, when they do the research.
So when that happens, do people say, why should I bother getting a flu shot if it doesn't work?
Yeah, they do, but it's still good because you might get a different strain of it. But they showed what was in dominance, like some people that when they went to the hospital, they tested for the influenza and it turned out to be this other type. So they've put it into this year's vaccine, so that's why it's a quadrivalent.
So how do you get tested for flu? Is it blood?
No, it's a nasal swab, that they take and they send it down, to the state lab.
So it's not blood, it's a nasal swab, and that tests whether you have the flu. Right. So who should get vaccinated? Is there a certain age, or is it everybody?
It's recommended for everybody 6 months and older. Anybody under 6 months, the vaccine isn't licensed for, and the baby still has immunity from the mother anyway. There's certain, if there was like a vaccine shortage, you'd want to vaccinate the elderly more, the young, the ones that would get, you know, a lot sicker instead of like the healthy. Because I know one year we had that problem. There was like a vaccine shortage. So we focused on, you know, the senior population, lung conditions, diabetes, any chronic ailments, you know, and the children.
Eileen, who makes the choice on what's in the vaccine? That
the pharmaceutical companies, you know,
based on
whoever they have.
This year?
Yes, right now they'll be preparing now for next year's flu, but it may be the same, you know, formulation that is now. But this flu that we have in expires at the end of June. So you can get this because flu season really is usually October to May, but like I just got my flu shot yesterday. You can, you know, they say as soon as you get the flu vaccine in is the time to vaccinate. And I've had calls since the end of August, you know, when our programs were going to be. So everybody's thinking about it.
And speaking of that, when do we do it, Elizabeth?
We have our first programs, and they're advertised on the City of Elizabeth webpage. And our first one is October the 6th at the Peterstown Community Center from 12:30 to 2:30. And we also have one in City Hall in the evening, and there's another afternoon one, and there's a Saturday one, which actually I think is October 24th. It's a Saturday from 10 to 12 noon. But we have flyers posted, and I just had to get a few programs out now and advertised, but you know, we still run programs in November and December.
And we get a good attendance? I mean, a lot of people sign up for the flu shots?
A lot of people come to the evening City Hall one. Some people have their favorite places to go. Like they'll say to me, well, I always go to Peterstown to get it. And then I'll give them, you know, the first program. And I said, if you don't make that, you know, call us or, you know, come to another one.
Who qualifies? Elizabeth, free? What's the qualifications?
You just have to be a resident of Elizabeth. And for these programs, it's 18 years and older. And if their children need it, we direct them to one of our other clinics that I can give them the state vaccine that's preservative free. So, you know, this one has a little bit of preservative in it, and we prefer, as long as I get the state vaccine, to give them the preservative free, because all the preschoolers 3 and 4 need a flu shot to attend school from September to December. So if they don't get their flu shot by the end of December, when they come back after the winter break in January, they'll be excluded from school. So that's when we're also hit with a lot of kids.
So they must get it between September and December.
Yeah, that's where they're spreading a lot of germs, and that's where the population, you know, they really pass it from one to another. Because if you've seen pre-K students, you know, running around and touching each other, and you know, they're the ones that get sick, and they're the ones that can also bring it home, you know, to their elderly grandparents or something. So, you know, it's best to protect the young too.
So in the flu season, sometimes it can spread rapidly, and sometimes we just have a slow season.
Yeah, like last year wasn't that bad.
Right?
No.
Because I always check with Gary Horan at Trinitas to say, hey, how's the flu doing? And last year he told me there were not a lot of visits to the emergency room.
Yeah, and they were still testing for the flu like almost towards the summertime. I mean, so that was a little odd because I get it on the computer on a reportable system, so I get to see, you know, what diseases are in Elizabeth, and you know, the flu was coming up still, and I was just surprised they were still testing people.
In the beginning of the show, I mentioned the breast cancer awareness walk. So before we close, what are your thoughts, and what is your involvement in the breast cancer awareness walk?
Well, the 2 nurses that have been running it, and we're helping, but it's Karen Ziobro and Angelica Rodriguez have done a lot of work on it, you know, with the meetings and getting everything together, and, you know, just so right. We were selling pins to, you know, for the donation, you know, that we're going to be sending in, you know, to the American Cancer Society. My mother's a 2-time breast cancer survivor, and she's 90.5 years old now.
And you're making her walk?
No, she's not walking. She can't do that. But you know, she's, you know, you see what they go through.
It's important, right?
You know, yes, the mammograms every year. You know, and if you're high risk, you know, actually, I think the first time when I was eligible, or you know, due to get the mammogram,
she encouraged you.
Well, she actually had her second bout, so then I was considered high risk, so I would have to go every year anyway. So, you know.
Well, Eileen, thank you for your work.
Oh, thank you very much.
Not only on breast cancer, but also thank you for your work on the efforts to prevent the spread of the flu. And
Okay.
what phone number can people call if they don't see it on the website?
908-820-4250.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
For Miss Eileen Kelly, please stay with us after these messages. Be sure to either look on our website or call the number at City Hall and get a free flu shot, being a resident of the city of Elizabeth. We'll be back with more and talking about the Italian flag raising and the celebration of Italian culture here in our city.